it all comes together. The evil that roams this land is cursed. Breath of the Wild has brought some new stuff to the Zelda franchise which we have never seen before, like different weapon types and crafting. But that's not what we're going to talk about today, since I found something very interesting. We see a new type of enemy in the game, the stalbokoblins, and I think I know how these bokoblins turned into these skeletal beasts. Well, actually, I think I know how every stal being came into existence. And besides this, we also see another stal being in Breath of the Wild. This little fella. And I also know what kind of creature this is. Today, I will reveal something dark, which explains a lot. The Undead. They hang between being dead and alive, and are overall mysterious. We see a couple of new ones in Breath of the Wild. Now, how could a perfectly normal bokoblin turn into a horrifying undead skeleton? How does a being turn into an undead? We see loads of undead throughout the Zelda series, so it would be time for an explanation. Well, it's not because of natural effects. There's something else in play here, which we have seen in the previous Zelda game and also a couple of others. In The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, we see a similar type of bokoblin called the Cursed Bokoblin. These horrifying bokoblins reanimate after death. Analysis indicates it fears pure, shiny items and will startle at the sight of a sacred shield. It is able to reanimate purely through its hatred of this world. They tend to assault Link in large groups and attack by wrapping themselves around Link and biting him, in a similar fashion to the Redeads from previous Zelda games. In addition to dealing damage, the bite also inflicts a jinx effect on Link, preventing him from using his items. Now here it starts to get really interesting, since these are also undead bokoblins, but they are still covered in flesh. Could it be that stalbokoblins are cursed bokoblins within a later stage of the curse, where they lose all of their flesh? Well, there's a big chance that this is the case, since we can see that the cursed bokoblins start to lose their flesh. They are partially made of flesh and partially made of pure bone. But the question is, how did this happen? What turned them into undeads? How could they turn into undeads because of their hatred? Well, let's look at the place where we first saw the cursed bokoblins, the Ancient Cistern, the fourth temple in Skyward Sword. We find them in the lower level, which is by contrast a lot darker and more deathly compared to the upper level, containing contaminated water that jinxes and damages Link if he touches it. So these bokoblins are essentially locked up in the lower level, with darkness and cursed water, also known as jinx. Jinx. Could this be the key to them changing into zombies? Did they drink from the water and got cursed because of it? Well, typically, when Link is jinxed, he is unable to draw his sword. Bubbles tend to have the ability to jinx Link, and by the looks of it, a lot of the undead and cursed creatures bear this exact curse. So could this curse turn bokoblins into undead? Well, it's said that they reanimate because of their hatred, so does the curse have anything to do with that? Well, there's one very special thing that all jinxed beings in Skyward Sword have in common. They drop evil crystals. Cursed bokoblins, dark little foes, dark keys, they all carry this crystal, and for some odd reason, some gossip stones also carry them. So could this crystal empower the hatred of these beings and make it so strong that they could return from death back in the realm of the living? Well, it would explain a lot, and it actually fits really well. Besides this, it would also explain how something like a stalbokoblin came into this world and why it's so hostile and aggressive. But what about Link? Why doesn't he turn into an undead or feel long-term effects of the curse? Well, this is an easy answer. Link is a holy and sacred person blessed by the gods, and this prevents the curse from turning Link into an undead. We can see this with the cursed bokoblins, who hate shiny objects and divine or sacred items. This is because of the curse and the dark crystal that dwells within them. And this is also why we don't see any stal or undead beings in clear daylight. We see them at night, in buildings, caves, dungeons, but never outside in the sun. This is because the Jinx curse can't handle daylight. We see this in the Earth Temple when Link uses his shield on the Jinx fog. It disperses. So the undead beings are most likely created by the curse of the Jinx and the evil crystal it creates. And maybe we will see more stal beings in Breath of the Wild, because Ganon took over for a while. We saw the same effect in Ocarina of Time, where Hyrule Castle Town became completely undead. Ganon could have spread the darkness of the Jinx curse even more, creating more undead. This would explain the stalbokoblins and the other variants. But what about the big guy in the trailer of Breath of the Wild? What is he supposed to be? Well, like I said, we see some new undead creatures in Breath of the Wild. So which creature would be big enough and looks like it? Some people speculated that it could be a Goron, but a really big one like Big Goron from Ocarina of Time. But would this fit? Do they look alike? Well, let's first take a quick look at the Stal being. It seems to have ears or horns of some sort, and that doesn't really fit with the Gorons, so they drop off. What could it be then? Well, there's one other option here. A huge moblin, like the club moblin from Ocarina of Time. This moblin has ears as well as horns, and this variant is also bigger than a normal moblin, which would fit the Stal being quite well. So could we be seeing Stal moblins as well? Who knows? It would be a cool addition to the new enemies in the game. So now you know the story and reason behind the old and new Stal beings of the Zelda franchise. Great that you watched the entire video. I hope you freaking enjoyed it. If you want to watch more, click the annotations on the screen right now or subscribe. You can always leave a comment. I would love to know your opinion on the subject and what you thought of it, and I just want to hear your opinion. I like that. Yeah, I like that.